Hello, welcome in my little kitchen. Hey guys, this is the first time doing this video. It's a little trial. You're probably all gonna have a big crack up at this, and fair enough, man. I probably will as well. Why am I doing this? Because a lot of you send me messages like, oh, can I please have a recipe, or can you explain me this? It's hard just explaining it through Messenger. I hate typing. So why not try it this way, okay? You know, there's a lot of people out there doing this. Why am I better? I'm not. Why do I do this? For fun. And hopefully we'll see what comes out of it, and hopefully somebody will learn something. And if this is a hit, well, we might try other things, you know? But first we're gonna get started with the basics. Bread. You know, everybody keep asking me for, oh no, please teach me how to make bread. Please give me your recipes. It's hard to say on paper, do this, do this. So I'm gonna do a little video showing you what I'm doing, and hopefully you will be able to do it as well, okay? So let's get started. You know, I prepared all my ingredients like a real professional. I got my flour, I got my water in the most amazing cup. Hey, that must be me. I got my salt, my yeast, and here is my starter. You know, this is the secret of all the flavor and goodies, and man, I wish you could smell that. So that's the only thing we're gonna use. You see, basic element, basic ingredients: flour, water, salt, and starter. I add a little bit yeast because I'm at home and I don't want to spend too much time waiting, you know. People can do just starter, and if they want to wait 18 hours, all be happy, you know, no stress for me, you know me. Okay, let's get started. So what am I doing? I'm going to take my bowl. That's the first thing. By the way, we're going to do this with a mixer. I think everybody has a mixer at home, and I really don't want to be bothered doing this by hand and be kneading here for like 15 minutes showing you guys my workout. I got other workouts, you know, so we're gonna do it with this. It's the easy way. Technology helps. This makes you a nice dough, you know. By hand will be nice, but I reckon everybody's got a little mixer at home, so should be no problem. And if you don't, well, too bad. Joking. Okay, I'll take the water. Water goes in first. Okay, the recipe, I'll write it out on top. You will see that once I'm posting this. Okay, so I put the water. That goes first, always. I got a little bit instant yeast. This is a sourdough bread, but not full sourdough. I'm using 1% of yeast, so 1% of my total flour weight. So that's not a lot, you know, just a little bit to give it that oomph and help it going a little bit faster at home, you know, because we don't have all the provers installations and all that stuff you have in a real bakery. So, a little bit yeast in a shot glass. Yeast goes in there, and then on top of that I'm gonna put my starter. So this thing is really alive at the moment, because yesterday when I fed it, it was here. It almost tripled in size, so this is very good. So I'm gonna pour that straight away into my water and the yeast. Go. $400 grams. You see, baking is science. It's all about the weights and having them right. So this starter, by the way, is a 100% starter. 100% starter means it's got equal part of flour, equal part of water. Okay, so that goes in there as well. And then on top of that, I pour my flour. Use high-grade flour, okay? Don't use just baker's flour, or use high-grade flour. You want a lot of gluten production in there. So if you don't like gluten, please turn away. And salt. Salt goes on the flour, because I don't want to have it in straight contact with my yeast, you know? And I'm putting everything together at once. You will see people going like, oh, put the salt half an hour later, or all these kind of things, you know. Everybody does what he wants. I do it this way, works perfect. And at least I'm sure I'm not forgetting anything. So, water first, yeast, starter, flour, salt. Now this thing is going to go on the mixer and we're going to use the dough hook. Okay? So we're going to mix this for 8 minutes. Because we want a real nice stretchy dough. Don't mix less, don't mix more. You can mix more if you need to, but don't mix less than 8 minutes. You really want a nice dough, okay? So you want it to be stretchy, elastic. Once it's mixed, you will see, I'll show you how to do the test to see if it's mixed properly and everything. And yeah, see you after the mixing. Okay, here we go. So the dough has been mixing for 8 minutes. Sorry I couldn't show you the mixing because my mixer is not here and I only have one camera filming this, so the more professional I get, the more I will improve. But so what's happening basically when you mix, from the moment the dough is not sticking to the bowl anymore, it means that your gluten are forming. And that means that it's coming all together, and that's what you want. So my dough has been mixing, so I'll take it out. You can use flour to put it on your bench, but you can also use some spray, you know, so if you don't want to make too much of a mess, just give a little bit of a spray. Give a little spray on your dough, a little bit on your hands if you don't want it to be too sticky, you see, just a little bit, don't need much. And then you take a scraper or a spoon or whatever you have handy, and then you take your dough and put that here on the bench. How can I see if my dough is mixed properly? It's called the window pane test. So you take your dough and you start stretching it, you see? And it becomes so thin, you can almost see through it, but it's not cracking. And that means that my gluten are perfect. Look at this, eventually it's gonna crack, but you know what I mean. You see, look at this is amazing. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna give it a little bit extra mixing on the table, without putting any power. Just keep that stretch going, you see? Give it a little bit of a stretch. Make it nice and smooth. And that's where we stop. So I have a nice, smooth, stretchy dough here. See? So what I'm going to do now is let it rest for like a half an hour. So I'm going to take, that's what I like to do, I take this. Because in the kitchen, you know, sometimes you get other stuff happening and you need to put it somewhere, or where it's warmer. Winter time, kitchen can be a bit colder, you can put it somewhere else. I use a bowl, give it a bit of a spray. I give it a good spray actually, because I don't want it to stick there. See, I give it a good spray. And then I'll take my dough and I put it on the spray. Make it nice and flat. Give it a little bit of a rectangular shape, like this. That's a personal thing, you can just throw it in there, depends on what you do, you know. Because that's something I like to point out, it's like baking is not a skill. Everybody can bake. If I can bake, you can bake. Everybody. The only 2 ingredients that you have to add to this, to make it really a good bake, to make it a nice bread, it's 2 major ingredients. It's love and passion. If you don't do that, you will just have a bread. If you add those 2 ingredients, you will have a delicious bread. Okay? So what's going to happen with this? It's going to sit there for 30 minutes. I'm going to put some plastic on top. I like to take this. It's handy, it's big. Got the perfect size. Put this on top, like that, and on top of that I put like a little towel. The only purpose of this is just to make sure my plastic doesn't go away. So there's a little bit of pressure on the sides, but you don't want to put in anything too heavy because you don't want to stop your dough from lifting up, okay? So just like this, 30-35 minutes, there's no stress. If you've got other things to do, it can even be there 40 minutes. The only thing we want now is the starter and the yeast in there to get active. And what is that thing going to do? It's going to change all the starches in your bread in sugars, and they're going to eat it, and they're going to make gas. I'll stay polite. And the gas is what's going to give you all the flavor to your bread. But these gas bubbles also want to get out of your bread. And what is happening? The gluten are there to stop them from it. So the gluten, that's why they're so stretchy. They're going to go with the air, but they will trap it. And that's why your dough will come up. That's the only reason. So we want to let it come up pretty well. So there's a lot of flavor going on. And then we're going to push it down very gently. And we're going to fold it a few times. And then we let it rest for another 30, 35, 40 minutes. So there's even more of that flavor going on in your bread. And that's the whole key of good bread, is giving it time. Give it time to develop, to have those gases. Because the yeast is going to give it that gas with a alcohol flavor, and all these kind of flavors are going to come together. Okay? Okay, see you back in 35 minutes, because I'm getting... Here we go. 45 minutes. I waited a little bit longer, because I wanted to prove a little bit more. So this is what you're going to have after 45 minutes. You see? It's coming up a little bit. So what we're going to do now is fold it. Why do we do that? Because we want to stretch those gluten more, so they can even trap more air. Okay? So what I'm going to do is give it a little spray. I don't want it to stick too much. And some spray on my hands. You can use olive oil if you want, but it's more expensive. But if you do ciabatta, it's the same way, but I'll use your olive oil because you want that flavor into it, okay? So here I got my hands a little bit greasy. What I'm going to do is take the first part of my dough, you see, like a sheet. And I'm going to stretch it gently and lift it. Look, it's coming up. And I fold it over the other part, okay? I turn my tin around. Do the same thing, grab the bottom part and the top part, and I start stretching that way, and opla, over it. I get this. Then I turn it that way, sideways, grab the whole thing together, and gently, don't pull it, don't stretch it, just do it gently. Let the stretch happen from itself. You see, like coming up and on top. Same thing, turn it around again, grab the other part, you see, I grab everything. And I stretch it, and there we go. And that's what I get, look. You see? I stretched it in 4 times. So what I'm going to do now, that's all. I don't want to overstretch it, just gentle. You know, with bread, you need to be patient. So what I do, the top part, I'm just going to turn it around like this. Flick it on the bottom. So these stretches are under the weight of the dough and they don't slide away. They just stay in place, okay? Give it an extra spray underneath because you don't want it to stick to the tin. A little bit on top. There we go. And what we're going to do, same thing. Put that on top. A little sheet. And there we go again. Another 45 minutes. Okay. Okay, here I am again. So we're gonna go for the second time folding. So you mix the dough, put it in there, let it rest for 35 minutes, 45 I did. Fold it, and now it rested for another 40 minutes. So it's always between 30 and 35. There's no real rule, just have a look how your dough comes up, you know, and if it's nice and light, you can start folding. So this is what we have now. And you can see the dough is holding better, way more than the first time. First time it was quite flat. Now it already has more lift to it because there's more foldings. The gluten are even stretched more, and then the gas that it's produced by fermenting just get caught up, and then that's why the dough is coming like this, okay? So we're going to do exactly the same thing as we did before. Fold it in 4 times and let it rest again. Okay, so I'll just spray a little bit on my hands. And here I go. You see, very gentle. Very gentle. We don't want to break down all that air that we created by knocking it down, and no, gentle with it, you know, treat it like a lady. Here, very gentle. Hopla. There we go. And you can see there's way more volume already in here, you know. And here, look, air bubbles start to form. So So that means there's a lot of gas trapped in there already. And here we go. And then the last time, just grab everything together. And here we go. See? Gentle, don't get angry on it. And just give it a little bit of a shape again. And now we're gonna let it rest again for like half an hour. And then we're gonna cut it up, shape it, and give it a final proof. Okay? Okay, so we're back. So now this proofed again for another 30 minutes. Time to shape it now, okay? So take this off very gently. See, it doesn't stick because of the oil. Doesn't stick to the plastic. Well, for the shaping, we're gonna split that in two. Okay, so we want roughly the same amount of weight. I think it's around 700 grams. I'm not exactly sure, we'll find it out. Now I'm going to use some flour. I'm not going to use any oil anymore. Just use some flour. Put flour on my bench. Okay, and then we're going to gently turn this around. We don't want to smack it because we don't want it to collapse and lose all the air. Okay, so got some flour everywhere on it. Look at that. What a nice piece of dough. There's my cutter. So we're gonna cut it nicely in two, so we roughly have the same amount of dough. You can give it a little check on the scale and always be gentle with it. This is around 675. And this as well. Perfect. So what we're going to do is pre-shape it a little bit. I like to make round loaves, but this is a little bit more tricky if you've never done it. So I'm going to make like a French batard style. It's more like a long shape Vienna style, like you would say here in New Zealand. So what I'm going to do first is give it a pre-shape. So I'm gently going to push it just to spread the air. Don't knock it. Gently spread the air everywhere. And then I roll it like this. And I give it a little bit of a pre-shape. See? So you end up with this. I put that aside. Same thing with that. I roll it. And give it a little bit of a pre-shape. You're always going to push some air out. That's normal. No, not all the air can stay in there. So now we're going to shape our batards. So what I do is I'm gonna bake it in my wood oven. So I got my wood oven outside heating up. Normally I bake it in my kitchen oven because it's a lot easier. Because the wood oven takes time. When I want to be fancy, I use my wood oven, but to do the everyday baking, it's easier with the kitchen oven. But sadly enough, that one broke down. So I'm gonna use a wood oven. It's warming up. I want it to be very hot, around 250, 260 degrees, so the bread got a nice spring when it gets in there. So what I do, I bake on a stone. So it's really good if you can get a pizza stone to bake your bread. So you can buy them at Bunnings or whatever you want. Just a pizza stone, chuck it in your oven when it's hot, perfect. But I still use some baking paper because it makes it easier, you know. So my bread's gonna go in here. And I use these little bread chopping boards. Put my baking paper on top. And that sits perfectly. So when I'm gonna put it in my oven, I put my bread in the oven and I just slide my chopping board underneath. Because once your bread is proofed and it's gonna go in the oven, you wanna be very gentle with it. Because if you give it a bump or you hit it, it will completely collapse, so we don't want that. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I have my two chopping boards here and a nicely cut out paper. I like to have things nicely prepared because the better you prepare it, the better the outcome will be. So what I'm going to do is put a little bit flour on my paper. It's always nice to have that flour underneath your bread as well, you know. Gives it that authentic, rustic look. So what I'm gonna do now is flatten them a little bit, gently. Don't knock all the air out. Gently. And then I fold it in two. Like this. You see? I fold it like that. And I press that. Okay? And then I do the same thing again. I put flour on my fingers because I don't want the dough to stick to my fingers too much. And I roll it again to here, like this. You see? And that gives me a shape. And then with my hands I go underneath. And I stretch the dough. I give it some tension. I want it to have, how you say, those strong sides so it doesn't collapse, you know? So the gluten keeps everything in there. And just with your fingers and some flour, just play around with it. The more you're gonna do it, the better it will be. You know, normally I go for round shapes, or I would do a really nice pointy one. But this is the easiest way for now. And the more you play with your dough, the more breads you're gonna make, the easier it's gonna become to shape them, okay? So, and I think if you're very experted, a very good experted bread maker, how you say it, you don't even have to watch my video. So, here you go. And that goes on the paper, like that. Okay? So we do the same thing again. Just push it down. Bring it together. See, create that lip. And then bring the other one over again. That's it. It's not harder than that. Okay? Then we give it a little bit of attention. Shape it. When you make a real French batar, you're gonna have those really pointy bits. It's all nice and flash, but for now, you know, this is just to show you how to make a bread. We can extend that to different videos if this works out well, so we'll see what happens. There we go. And I'll put that one here as well. So I got my two breads here now on my board. I'm gonna scrape my flour. And now my breads gonna have their final proof. At room temperature, might take up to an hour, okay? Maybe 45 minutes, depends on the weather, depends on the heat. In the bakeries we have provers, so all that is a lot easier, but it works. So, and then here again, I'm gonna put some flour on the top. Just rub it a little bit like this, because I don't want my plastic to stick to my breads. I'm gonna open it up so it's a little bit wider, just a little bit narrow. Go. And then just put some stuff around it so you can close it off properly and the air is not going underneath, because you don't want to create a crust. You want to keep that nice sticky dough on top, because later on when you're going to score it, when it's nice and soft, it's easier. If it's got a skin, you're going to tear it apart. It's going to be very ugly. Okay? See you in an hour when these things are getting ready to go in the oven. Okay, here we go. Time to put the bread in the oven. They've been proving for an hour. So we're gonna score them. So we're gonna do easy score. What we're gonna do is put some flour on top, and then very gently with our hand rub it over the bread like this. Okay? Don't be afraid to have too much, because it will also prevent if your oven is too hot, like with my wood oven sometimes can be very hot, it will also prevent a little bit the crust from burning too quickly. The flour will actually quietly isolate it. So we're gonna use a lame. So this you can buy on the internet. I got it from my good friend Bruce, who owns a business, Black Dog Traders, and sells those. But you can just use a serrated knife, or you can use whatever you want, a razor blade. So, and for this we're just gonna do 3 incisions, okay? When you do it, hold your blade like this and do a 45-degree angle incision like that. 1, 2, 3. Don't go too slow, don't wait, just give it a nice cut. Okay? Here we go for the next one. This one we're gonna do a little bit more fancy if you wanna have a little bit of a go at it. So you can just do the simple 3 cuts, or you can do a little bit more fancy, and we can give it a cut on the side like this, and then we make like a fern, you see, and then you end up with something like this. Sweet. Now it's baking time. Okay, so we're outside with the oven. This is where the magic is gonna happen. I'm gonna throw some rosemary on my fire just to give it extra more flavor. So my oven is at 260 at the moment. Throw that in the stove. Grab my breads. And here goes the first one. And number 2. And a little bit steam. Okay, bread has been baking now for like 35 minutes, 250, 260 degrees, pretty hot. So we're gonna get them out there now because this is a wood oven. It's gonna color it quite a lot. It's very different from a kitchen oven like you have at home. So we'll have a look. Here we go. How do we know if it's baked? Have a listen. Needs to sound hollow. Okay, number 1. Number 2. You can see the crack is pretty big because the oven doesn't steam, and when your bread doesn't have steam it cracks quite a lot. So this is why it's so wild, and also the flour gets pretty dark, but if you brush it off you will see underneath the dark flour you have a nice colored bread. Okay, that's it. Try that.